welcome. You're watching Cricbuzz Live. My name is Tanay Tiwari and Australia have beaten Ireland. Yes, that's not breaking news. But the fact that they've beaten them by 42 runs, that's also not breaking news because they could have beaten them by a larger margin, gotten their net run rate fixed by a huge margin as well. But not all of that was to be because the Irish batters, especially Tucker, was out there with a mission. The mission to help the English. Yes, look at that. 20 overs, 179 for 5 is what Australia got on the board and then reduced Ireland to 67 for 6. From there on, it seemed like that 104-run mark where Australia, if they reduced Ireland to that, they would have been in a better net run rate than England. But that wasn't to be. Lachlan Tucker was brilliant with this 71 not out. Australia, of course, towards the end, winning by 42 runs, still with almost 11 balls to spare, but this wasn't as convincing a victory as they would have liked. With me, Simon Doull, Joy Bhattacharjya. Gentlemen, welcome. And Simon, you'd agree, Australia would be happy, but not as much.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the win is the key thing when you are bowling second. You've got to make sure you get that win on the board. It's tough to sort of worry about net run rates too much. They had an opportunity, but I thought Lachlan Tucker's innings was brilliant. Yeah. Little worries, little injury worries. I'm sure we'll talk about those from Australia's point of view. But I think for the most part, the bowlers did a really good job. There was a couple of wickets given away by Ireland, I thought, up top. But Australia will take the 2 points and they'll know exactly what they have to do leading into their last game.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And that's something that both you and Simon Joy were saying from the start of this game, because while there will be debates around the fact that they have to improve that net run rate, but to improve the net run rate, it wouldn't be any fruitful if you don't get those 2 points. So first get those 2 points and then concentrate on the net run rate.
No, absolutely. And I think you've got to look at it that way. Otherwise, you just don't put the cart before the horse. The important thing, though, is that Australia, the one thing they would look at and say is that if we had them 67 for 6, that's when we should have closed the door a bit more convincingly. I mean, I think they wouldn't be bothered about the fact that they got 137. But given the fact that they got 20-odd, 4 wickets in about 20-odd, that's, if you look at that, 4 for 25 and 5 for 25, after that for them to get to 137, remember, it's not 137. They were literally 137 with 3 wickets in hand, with about 48 at 13-14 to get in the last 3 overs. I mean, it was a ghost of a chance, but they were there till the last 3 wickets just fell in a heap. So that's the one thing Australia will ask themselves, that did we allow these guys perhaps a little bit more latitude? Could we have, we had their, we had our boot on their throat. Yeah. Did we did we let off the pressure a bit? I mean, that's the one question Australia will ask itself.
Also, the bowlers in the death overs, Simon. I mean, the runs coming from Stark was very, very good at the start of the innings. But the moment he starts bowling in the death overs, those runs are leaking, not only from him, but from a lot of other bowlers.
Yeah, normally that's Mitchell Stark's strength, isn't it? Getting those Yorkers coming around the wicket, the ball tailing a little bit. I mean, there's no chance of the ball tailing much at this time of year, particularly at the Gabba and probably all around Australia, to be honest. So he'd be a little bit disappointed with that. Pat Cummins was better tonight, I will say that. Glenn Maxwell, good. Hazelwood, very good without taking a wicket. And I thought Adam Zampa, as usual, I mean, we talked about that. Joy talked about that before the game started. Yeah. He was crucial for them in the UAE last year. And he's proven crucial again when he's fit and available to play. So a very good performance tonight from Adam Zampa as well. So one or two little concerns, I guess, in and around the sort of bowlers, but not too much to worry about. And I guess depending on what happens with the skipper, I'm not the way he limped off. You don't recover from a hamstring inside of 3, 4, 5 days. So it may even be beneficial for Australia that Cameron Green comes into the side.
Yeah, it didn't seem very nice, and especially knowing the fact that Aaron Finch has had a history with his hamstring injuries now. He had, I think, he was holding his right hamstring, then there was a left hamstring issue with Tim David as well. There are injury concerns around this Australian team, especially Aaron Finch.
Okay, first question I want to ask is, if Aaron Finch is not there, who do you see taking over? Is it Maxwell? Is it Warner?
Wade was leading them today, so.
Yeah, so is it Wade? I mean, have they taken...
Yeah, Matthew Wade. I think Matthew Wade captains the side. I think, Joy, that would be my choice. And then it's a pretty much a straight swap from where they came from in that recent series, that Cameron Green goes in to the side and opens the batting.
That's interesting. The other thing is that you can open, and as Gujarat has done with Matthew Wade, and put slot Cam Green back at 7. You could do that as well. But do you see Cameron Green open? What do you think they would prefer doing?
Yeah, I think that would be a better option. Just it keeps that left-right combination going as well. If you put Matthew Wade to the top with David Warner, you've got two lefties, which I think they like that left-hander in the middle order as well, just in case they need something there, because they've got Maxwell Stoinis, David, who are all right-handers. So I think that just gives them a little bit of an option at the back end of the innings as well. So I would see them going, if Finch is out, I'd see them going Green at the top with Warner, and then the rest of the order pretty much stays the same.
Yeah, now we've talked about Australia a lot, but the one guy who really seemed like taking the game away from Australia, even when Ireland were, well, that far behind in the game, was Lachlan Tucker. And that's been the case with so many of these informed batters in this tournament, Simon. You see Suryakumar Yadav seems like he's batting on a different tack against a different opposition. Lachlan Tucker as well just seemed to be very comfortable.
Yeah, it did. Right from ball one almost. He sort of chipped down the wicket and hit a lovely shot through mid-wicket very early on in his innings. He looks like a really good player and quite a simple player, loves the ramp shots, but he's got power down the ground, and it was a standout inning. So he scored over half their runs, hasn't he?
Yeah.
In that chase. And it just, that one innings, he just needed two or three of that top order. I thought Balbirnie played a really average cricket shot. I thought Sterling's shot was poor. It was a poor option from him. You don't have to hit that ball in the air. If you do, you want to be hitting it squarer. There was some really Harry Tector, just a nonchalant way to get out, hitting it straight to Steve Smith at short square legs. So yeah, there was some. I mean, Stark bowled a couple of beauties to get rid of Camphor in particular. So look, there was moments, but I thought there was some average cricket. And that's the other thing we talked about prior to this game, wasn't it, Joy? That so often you feel like that one win, that big win over a big nation, is almost the game, and then they tend to forget about the next game, and it just becomes sort of a hurdle too far. And that's what I felt with Ireland tonight. They played their World Cup game when they beat England.
Yeah,
that's not good enough. They need to start playing back-to-back games.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I was just thinking about it, that had Lachlan Tucker got a little more support, if you look at it, all the big guns, Sterling, Balbirnie, the way they gave Tector, the way they gave away their wicket, I think that would bother them. The ones that Stark got away, I mean, you get a first ball Yorker into your swinging Yorker, that's fine. It happens all the time, and he's a class bowler. But they got starts. They had 6, 7 balls, 10 balls, and then they gave it away. And I think that's what they'll look at and say that as a side, we are now a top side. We're a test side. We need to be more consistent. This is what we need to do to be a test playing nation.
Yeah.
And again, look at it that way, that the problem with this World Cup, or the way things are stacking up, is you have many goals. So you have a run rate goal, you have a top 2 goal, you also have a top 4 goal.
Yeah.
And you cannot allow yourself to, distract yourself and not allow your top 4 goal also to be something that you're always aware of. Saying that I need to get close. Even if I don't get there, I need to get close. So I think all those are things where they'll feel that their more experienced batsmen have let them down a bit. But yeah, all credit. I mean, Australia, again, I feel nobody will go out of this match completely happy. Australia would have said, if you had 67 for 6, you should have got them at 105. And they would have turned around and said, we could have made this a chase. This could have been 150 or 160. We may not have reached there, but we'd have got close enough to at least give it a big smash at the end.
Yeah, I think what Joy and Simon are saying also officially answers why, a lot of these emerging teams, a lot of these teams who've now gotten that test status haven't been able to make a big mark at the biggest of stages, and that is because of a lack of consistency. As Simon said, when you won that game against England, you've got to back that up with a big win. And it did come in the words of Captain Balbirnie. He said that we're ready, we think we have a great chance to reach the top 4, but then if you play those shots, Andrew, it's not going to help, and it didn't help Ireland today, but it did help Australia. Those 2 points will help them a long way on the points table as well. Look at that. Now with 5 points, of course, that one washout against England, that net run rate, still not the best, but still improving, and they still have one more good game to go, so they can really make that up from there. But yeah, Australia will be overall, I mean, they won't be very, very happy with this, Simon, but with those 5 points now, they will start seeing that that semis a little clearer.
Well, it puts the pressure right back on England, and England now have to beat New Zealand, and that's the key. If England beat New Zealand, their run rate will stay relatively healthy. It doesn't necessarily go up when you have a win because of the scores in the game. So, don't automatically think that if England win, their run rate is going to go further above plus 0.3, because it's not necessarily going to happen that way. New Zealand's was, plus 4.5, and it dropped after that win against Sri Lanka the other day because of the runs that were scored in the game. So It's not necessarily going to go higher, but it will make Australia's job a lot more difficult if England beat New Zealand tomorrow night. So they'll be thinking, they're sitting there now thinking, okay, Australia put the pressure on us. It's now must win. We can't rely on anything else. If it's rained out, we're pretty much gone, because Australia would be expected to win their last game, put them through to 7 points. So England and New Zealand have to play if England have any chance to progress in the tournament. And well, they were probably the pre-tournament favourite along with India. I would imagine Australia, England, India would have been fairly close at the top of the favourites list.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that Australia's last match is after England's last match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they will have a clear equation in mind.
They'll have a very clear equation in mind, but that may be a very difficult equation by the time it comes to them.
Oh yes. But for that, we'll have to have a look at what games do we have lined up on Tuesday. 2 games. Yes. What's the first one? It's Afghanistan taking on Sri Lanka in Brisbane, where apparently Simon has brought the weather along. Now, Simon, Afghanistan are thinking, why did we even come here?
No. I have also one question. Simon, just because you don't want to do long previews, are you going to say, okay, the match is going to be rained out? That's not fair. That's not the way it happens.
No. No, look, I really feel for Afghanistan. I will say, Joy, just to point you on that, what you just made. Friday the 4th, New Zealand play Ireland and Australia play Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Saturday the 5th, England play Sri Lanka.
Okay, it's the other way around. Sorry, I got it wrong. That's the other way around. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But yeah, so England will know exactly, if England beats New Zealand tomorrow night, if that game goes ahead, England will know exactly the equation they need on the Saturday the 5th. So New Zealand, Ireland, Australia and Afghanistan all play their last games on the 4th. Mm-hmm. That is in Adelaide. And then on the 5th in Sydney, England play their last game against Sri Lanka. So just to clarify that,
thank you,
viewers and those at home. But yeah, look, I mean, I really feel for Afghanistan, and not very often in these, or in your career, outside of Mohammad Nabi and obviously Rashid and maybe Mujib, who have been able to play at the MCG prior to this in the Big Bash. A lot of those players will never get another opportunity to play a game at the MCG, and they both get washed out. I mean, this has just been a terrible time for Afghanistan. I really do feel for the team and for how this tournament has gone for them. Now they're turning up Brisbane tomorrow. They were due to play a warm-up game here, which I think got rained out.
Yeah, against Pakistan. Yeah,
they haven't had the best time with the weather at all. So I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that the rain doesn't play a part tomorrow. I'm just looking at the weather forecast, and I don't make the weather. I don't make the forecast. I'm just relaying the news. Yeah. All I'm doing is relaying the news. That's all. And be it good, be it bad. Yeah. I'm very sorry.
You're just the message.
Guys, yeah. It's not me. It's them.
Absolutely. But Afghanistan have got to feel very, very disappointed, Joyce.
Look, in the Khyber Pass, you get 3 days of rain a year. Now you get 3 matches. You get rain like this every day. What are we talking about?
Exactly.
What are the odds? They look at it and said, look, I go home to my family, 4 generations don't have an umbrella in their house because we never need one.
Yeah.
And here we come, literally raincoat, valley and umbrella weather.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's have a look at that Afghanistan score. Of course, Sri Lanka wouldn't want to wash out as well. They would really want to make a mark, but especially for Afghanistan and this squad, Joy. I mean, they're seeing Ireland do so well. They've seen Zimbabwe cause upsets, and they're sitting there and saying, we've got the quality, we've got the guns, give us that chance. Just stay away, let us show what we're made of.
It's 2 things. One is that if you think about it, the best in terms of pure win-loss record, the best T20 side in the world, international side in the world is Afghanistan. Mm. Because remember, before they played a whole lot of associate countries, so they've got the record of winning 15 in a row. They've won a lot of matches because they've played against opposition, and they've won a fair few matches against the top teams as well. Mm-hmm. I think the thing about them is, it's like Bangladesh. Bangladesh got into test status, got there, and then just seems to have stagnated a bit. Yeah. So they'll be looking around and saying, can we keep growing? And I think what you've seen with Afghanistan now is they had the spinners first. I think now they've got a couple of decent fast bowlers. 2 batsmen, really 2 class batsmen they have. They have, literally Ibrahim Zadzai and Gurbaz, both are impressive. That's it. They need a couple more batsmen, somebody else who say, you look at this team and you say, how many of these guys can get you 60s, 70s, 80s? How many of these guys will bat 14, 15 overs? Mm-hmm. Now, the odds are everyone doesn't bat that every day. Yeah. But on the days that at least one, if not two, at least one bats 15, 16 overs, you're going to do well. They need more of those kind of batsmen. I think that's the only thing that they're missing to be a really quality top T20 side.
Yeah, and that's very evident in the scores they make as well. And also the lack of experience, perhaps, Simon, for the batters in these conditions. The bowlers, a lot of them have a lot of experience, especially the spinners. The batters, not so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about Zadran and I guess the guys at the top.
Yeah, Gurbaz, Ramanullah Gurbaz, yeah.
Gurbaz, it's just that bouncing ball. I think Hazratullah Zazai, just that bouncing ball that causes a bit of an issue. And that's where they need those types of conditions on the odd occasion to just be better at these world tournaments. I put them in they're a lot newer to these T20 tournaments and to world cricket than Bangladesh are. But Bangladesh have not improved as far as wanting to do well at world tournaments. And if they're going to do well at world, they have to make a decision, Bangladesh. They have to make a decision on whether they just want to win at home and be okay at home in bilateral series, or they actually ever want to compete in world tournaments. Because if they want to compete in world tournaments outside of Asia, they have to make at least one surface in their country with a bit of grass and a bit of pace and a bit of bounce, so that they can go there and train, play sides there if they want to, and just give their bowlers something. And I think Afghanistan kind of are in that same realm where Bangladesh have been for quite some time. If they can start producing some batters who can play on good, hard, slightly quicker surfaces, and some bowlers who can, bring a Tuscan Ahmed type bowler along, which they're trying to do with Fazil Haq Faruqi and a couple of others, then they'll get there. But it's going to take some time. But you'll never do it if you don't have facilities in your own country or wherever their training facility is to just replicate these sorts of conditions.
It's very crucial. It's very crucial. All of that experience, of course, counts. But for Sri Lanka as well, now it's been 2 defeats and 2 major ones, Joy, in a row. First against Australia, then against New Zealand, and especially against New Zealand, they were very sloppy. I mean, in parts, they were so good. They'd reduced New Zealand and they had a real chance to really restrict them to a small score. And then those dropped catches and everything that followed.
Well, absolutely. 2 things. Their bowling plans really worked. I mean, I thought they were absolutely brilliant. Theekshana was great up front. The way they bowled to the New Zealand top order, they had a plan, they executed beautifully. Yep. Now you've got the wickets. Then they allowed New Zealand to get away. And I think these are situations where, you see, the problem is, normally there's very little time to recover in a T20 match. So if you have an opportunity to finish it off and you allow a team to recover, I think that's the thing. They'll look at Glenn Phillips, they'll look at the dropped catch and they'll say, you know what, they should have been 40 short. And those are the kind of things. Similarly with the bat, I mean, Kushal Mendis is the top scorer in this tournament so far, but that's because he's played the previous 3 matches. But Nisanka, Mendis, still they've given some runs. But Rajapaksa has given them nothing. Last match, he looked absolutely sensational and then he gave it away. So that middle order, Shanuka is not giving them anything. And I think those are the things that they're worrying about, that who's going to give us something in the middle order. I think their bowlers are doing pretty well for them. Hasranga is doing well. He's the top wicket taker in the tournament. And Hasranga will always get wickets because of the kind of bowler he is. He'll get smashed, but he'll always get wickets. It's the rest of them that they need to get something out of.
Yeah. You were saying, Simon?
Yeah, I just think that they've lost they lost 5 guys to injury, which one is obviously back now. But they've had a terrible run of injuries, which hasn't helped them at all. But it's still down to their batting. Most of their injuries have been to their bowlers, and their batters just have not done the job. They, as you said, Tanay, at times the other night they were brilliant against New Zealand. But then that one catch, and then all of a sudden the air seemed to come out of the tyres. Yeah. And New Zealand just dominated, and Glenn Phillips dominated from that point on. And then they came out with the bat, and it was just some loose shots again, some wayward shots. They seemed to be a little bit 4-6 or out to me, and the inability to just go through a hard 3-4 overs and pick up singles and put the bad ball away just isn't there at the moment. That's what I think they're really struggling with. They've got power; they can all clear the boundary. You know, Rajapaksa is probably one of the bigger hitters in the game, along with the Livingstons and these sorts of players. But he's just got to learn how to get ones and rotate the strike. With a left-right combination, it's the best time to be out there. So it's just cricket awareness and cricket sense, I think, at times that Sri Lanka are just lacking.
Yeah, let's have a look at their squad as well. Would you like to change something, Simon, now with those 2 defeats? Or is this a good 11 just not performing up to their potential?
It's a tough one. I don't think Van der Sar brings anything to the bowling. I don't know that I would change too much. I think they picked their best 11 of those that are available, and they've just got to give them a little bit more leeway and maybe just hope that they learn from their mistakes. It's all you can ask. You just have to ask them to learn from the mistakes of that previous game against New Zealand and just be better, be more thoughtful around how you go about your innings with the bat. Because I think their bowlers are doing a relatively good job, actually a very good job, let's be honest, because they are 2 to 3 of their key bowlers short. So I think it's the batters that need to take some real responsibility here.
Yeah, be better, have some cricketing sense and pray. Pray for no rain in Brisbane because the forecast doesn't seem nice at all. And we'd love to see more of Afghanistan and Sri Lanka, both of them. But now to the second game. Yes, and this one's a real blockbuster. England versus New Zealand. England desperately craving some game time. New Zealand also, because they have to send the list of their players and get their boarding passes for the semi-finals. No, Joy?
He'd like to think that, but no. I think this is a knockout game for England. I think if they win this game, I think they know that they're through, because then they have the last match. It's a comparatively easier game. They have an opportunity to control. They really need to win this game. If they lose this game, I think then it'll depend on Australia, run rate, all that. Other factors come into consideration, I think. So if they win this, they'd say, okay, we've made our way. And then maybe New Zealand would think a bit, though I think how far ahead they're in the run rate. Even if they get caught up, I don't think anyone will cross them on run rate. So I think that's where New Zealand has a huge advantage. But and I think as a team so far, New Zealand has got going. England just looks, and it's a lot to do also with washed out matches, whatever. New Zealand just looks a better team right now. It looks a team England just doesn't look it so far. Hasn't looked the team that it is so far,
Yeah. So
one rather an unimpressive win,
Correct, yeah. Now the rub of the green hasn't gone England's way and you can't take it away from them, Simon. But if we have a look at the squad, what's gone wrong with them? Is it the batting? Is it the bowling? Is it everything? What's gone wrong?
Well, we talked about it earlier, didn't we? Captain has not performed whatsoever. Josh Buttler hasn't got runs at the top. Alex Hales' strike rate is really poor. It's been way down. Milan's strike rate has been awful. And they've got nothing out of Ben Stokes. Well, there's their top 4 batters. So how can you expect to win games? And I guess you can look at it and say, okay, England have played one, lost one, and then had a good win over in Perth against Afghanistan. So, and a rained-out game. So they've really had one average performance, which could have been turned around by a Moeen Ali strike in that last game. But I think that Moeen Ali innings kind of flattered the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern scoring. And some are saying, one more hit from Moeen and we would have been home. But it wasn't until Moeen came to the crease. And I think he got 24 off 12 in that game against Ireland. And that flattered their loss because they should have been way, way better. They should have scored a lot more runs. Now, when I look at that squad, I cannot have Milan and Stokes in the same team. I just can't have them batting together at 3 and 4. And, I'd love to see Phil Salt get an opportunity because I think he deserves an opportunity. Now, he would probably have to come in for Hales at the top of the order. And I think they've got plenty of batting. So I would strengthen the bowling with David Willey and I would leave Ben Stokes out. And that's the team I would select. Now, I know that England won't do it. It's the same as the Pat Cummins situation. We can't drop Ben Stokes. He's a world-class player. Ben Stokes is a world-class test match player. He's a very, very, very good one-day international player. He's an okay T20 player. And that's kind of, you've got to look at numbers. You've got to look at numbers and stats and things at the moment. And I just think, they might be better off changing that side, but I don't think they will.
The numbers don't really seem to add up for Ben Stokes. And Dooley is so right there because what that does is when David Malan and Ben Stokes, 2 batters of a similar kind, bat together, the entire powerhouse of a batting order that you have doesn't really mean a lot when the 2 of them are batting.
Exactly. Because if Butler's not given you a start, he's gone early. These 2 are consolidating. Suddenly you're at 6.5, 7 a game. And then you expect Livingston and these guys to do, Harry Brooks to do chaos at the end. It doesn't work. And that's one thing. Actually, if you think about it, he's not even hasn't he given up one-day internationals?
He has,
So he's really a test match player. He's actually now only a test match player because you're right. He's not the greatest one-day international player, but reputations are sadly, that's how it's going to be. And they'll say, oh, he'll give us something in the ball. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, he's absolutely right. Moeen Ali was a guy who took this score to respectability the last time around as well. It would have looked far, far worse. And I feel that, where do you play Moeen Ali? Do you actually float him?
Yeah.
I don't think England floats him as much as, say, other teams would have. Chennai floated him pretty successfully, used him like that kind of a player because he can be really, really destructive. But that's the one thing, that if Butler goes early, somebody else in that England top 4 has to say, I'm going to score at 8, 9, 10 and over.
Yeah.
Who's that other person? And I think that's a question he's asking.
Yeah, it's a team with batting riches that is unparalleled. It's enviable. And yet, if you can't get those big scores, like we saw against Afghanistan as well, if you can't really gun down those 113 very, very quickly, it doesn't really count for a lot. But now to New Zealand.
No.
Yeah, Simon, you were saying?
Sorry, just one more thing. The other thing about David Willey or Moeen Ali is Willie could float. Willie could bat at 3 if they want him to, because he's a real power player.
Yeah.
Moeen Ali could bat at 3 if they want, and it's the left-handed option. So that's the reason I would do that. But as I say, move on to New Zealand because
they're not going to do.
And that visa, I think, I know you don't need a visa, but otherwise your renewal would have really been in trouble.
Imagine that at the immigration counter, Simon.
Oh, Simon?
Yeah, please play that clip. Hi, I'm Simon Doull. No, please watch this clip first. Something that you said about Ben Stokes. But let's have a look at the New Zealand squad. 2 very good wins for them. And the question really now is, Simon, does Kane Williamson prefer the aisle seat or the window seat on the flight to the semi-final? No, I'm just joking. But it's been that kind of a tournament so far for New Zealand. I mean, even in the last game when the batters didn't really get going, it was one man Glenn Phillips, and it was one man show.
Yeah, look, they've surprised me. I've got to say that first and foremost. I wasn't sure about New Zealand leading into the tournament. They were always a good tournament team. I just wasn't sure where they were at, and they've really surprised me. That first game was brilliant. Finn Allen took it away from Australia, and then Conway played wonderfully well, and the bowlers had a great platform to bowl at. Second game, huge trouble batting first, and then Glenn Phillips and the little innings from Daryl Mitchell. Let's remember that Daryl Mitchell had been out for a while. He had a little niggle and an injury. It was his first game back. And I know it was only a run of ball 20, but it was quite a crucial partnership that those two put together. And it just steadied that New Zealand innings and allowed Glenn Phillips to do what he did at the back end. And once again, the bowling has just been, Tim Southee, Trent Boult, man, they just get better.
Yeah,
they get better with age at the moment. They're clever bowlers. And, Lockie Ferguson was a little bit expensive against Sri Lanka, but that will happen when you're just searching for wickets. And the spinners, Santner has been fantastic. And Sodhi's had a couple of very good games as well. So they've got things locked up quite nicely there as far as their 11 is concerned. Haven't used Phillips with the ball. They haven't hardly used Neesham with the ball. They used him against Australia for 2 overs. So they've got options as well.
Yeah.
No, I love this team. And I think outside South Africa, this is my best bowling attack. I think South Africa has a sensational bowling attack for these conditions. Because if you can keep somebody like a Tabraiz Shamsi not playing in a lot of matches, then you can just think. Look at that. And Lockie Ferguson, you see the great advantage that somebody like Lockie Ferguson has that, when your batsmen 7, 8, 9, 10, when you've suddenly got past the top orders, somebody like a Lockie, 150 bowler, just is something that a lot of tailenders are not used to facing. So, he gives you, they have that enforcer 150 bowler, they have the 2 guys who swing it up front. They haven't really had a situation where I feel that they don't have that many. I don't think Saudi is a great death bowler, or hasn't been for a large part of his career.
Yeah.
But they haven't really had that problem so far because the situations haven't been closed really. They haven't been in a situation where it's been a needle match like that. So that we'll only find out then. But so far to whatever plan they have, and one of the things they have is that they're saying that Darren Mitchell and Kane Williamson are the 120 sort of strike rate batsmen. Yeah. And then Finn Allen will go off at the top, and Glenn Phillips, they all play around these guys. Yeah. Conway has the ability to play both ways, but those guys are the guys who are going to stabilize things. The others can really get forward. And you do have some great hitters. Neesham still hasn't really hit form. Yeah. He can be a phenomenal hitter. So there's a lot of power in that team. And of course, there is nothing better for a team than winning. It just, everything improves, relationships improve, confidence improves. They look at the top of their game right now.
That they do. As I said, it's all about just printing those boarding passes. Just wondering whether they're going to Sydney or to Adelaide. But the one thing that you mentioned about Saudi and Boult, Simon, the fact that the two of them are so good, They keep getting better with age, it seems. And Harsha said a very interesting thing. He said that he can't really imagine this New Zealand team without Bolt and Southee. And that is true. You come to think of it, the two of them are so integral to the side.
Yeah, they are, and absolutely. Look, Trent Bolt's gone down the road now of wanting to play more franchise tournaments. So this is the last time he'll play for New Zealand for some time. He won't play a lot after this. I think he's signed a couple of franchise contracts. So and I have no issue with that. He'll play some more Test match cricket, and he will play 50 over World Cup next year in India, and he'll probably play the next T20 World Cup in the Caribbean and the USA. But outside of that, we won't see him play a lot of cricket for New Zealand. I have no issue with that. Tim Southee's probably not far away, although he's not as sought after in some of the T20 leagues around the world. And I'm not sure why that is. He should be really sought after in some of those other leagues around the world if he decides to go down the same track. But it's going to be a very, very, I'm going to say that I won't say the size 11 or 12, the size 15, 16 boots to try and fill when those two leave.
Yeah. That is true. Just the volume of wickets between the two of them across all formats, they're legit legends of New Zealand cricket and world cricket for that matter. So then, gentlemen, players to watch out for, Simon, for you, from either sides.
Well, I think Jos Buttler has to have something to do tomorrow night. He really needs to perform from an England point of view. He's their catalyst. He's their key to getting them off to good starts. So I think he is certainly one from England's point of view. The other one I think is, I'll go with a couple from England because I think Moeen Ali will certainly have a big part to play, and Mark Wood. Mark Wood to ruffle some feathers will be keys from England point of view. So if Buttler, Ali and Wood go well, England have every chance of playing well. From New Zealand's point of view, I mean, Finn Allen, one score, one failure. He's the key to getting New Zealand off to a good start, but I still think the glue in that batting lineup has got to be Devon Conway. If Conway has a good night out, then New Zealand should have a good night out because they can all bat around him, and he can't go past the two guys we just talked about with the ball.
Yeah, that's so true. For you, Joy, who would they be?
Absolutely. He's all chosen all the best ones. So yeah, but no, obviously Buttler is so crucial. But looking beyond that, I'd be really interested in seeing Livingston versus the New Zealand spinners because Livingston can take down spin. He's got the strength, the ability to just stand in his place and whack them. And, Ish Sodhi hasn't really, nobody has gone after them so far. And that will be an interesting matchup for me because he has that ability to hit them. And I think that will be an interesting thing of how these match up because we know that those fast bowlers up front, it's going to be Buttler and them is one matchup, but then it's the New Zealand spinners versus the England middle order. And that's another crucial matchup for me.
Yeah, let's have a look at the final look at the points table for this group. This one's a very, very critical encounter, especially for England. They desperately need these 2 points. And as Simon said, the net run rate will continue taking care of itself the moment you keep getting those 2 points. But those 2 points, very, very important for England. For New Zealand, they get those 2 points. It's almost a guarantee into the semi-finals. So then that sets up a very good Tuesday for us, provided that it doesn't rain. Now, our man in Brisbane says that the first game is a bit of a trouble. The second one, last time around, you showed us the forecast on your phone, Simon.
I'm going right now. Here we go. So tomorrow, I'm just going to go to, I'll just show you sort of around that 8, 9 a.m. time.
No way.
Okay.
This looks worse than the last time.
Ooh.
So that's in the morning. But what I will show you, I'll just flick it on a little bit now because at around about 2, look at 2 to 6.
Nice. That's what you're going to have. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's scheduled to stop around about 1 or 2 p.m. And then for the rest of the day, it looks very fine. So that first game's due to start at 2 p.m. and the second game due to start at 6 p.m. So, I mean, I'm so sorry, Afghanistan. I'm so sorry. But your game might just be washed out. And then the New Zealand-England game might just be played. New Zealand win, it knocks England out, basically, because they can only get to 5 points.
Yeah.
And they have to rely on Australia losing that last game. If England do win, I think it almost knocks Australia out because just the difference between the run rate, if England and Australia both win their last games, it's almost like Australia would have to win by 250.
Yeah.
So if England win, I think Australia are done. If New Zealand win, then England are done. And that's kind of how you're going to look at that game tomorrow night.
I think no. I think if New Zealand win, I think England still have a chance in the last match. I think you're definitely right that if
Yeah, but they have to rely on Australia losing, Joy,
they rely on Australia.
because they'll both be on 5 points.
Yeah, exactly. It's just too
They
confusing.
have to rely on Australia. Yeah.
It's just
If England lose tomorrow, then they're done. Because
No, they're
they have
done.
to they can only get to 5.
Yeah.
They can only get to 5 points. You see, if they win their last game, if they lose tomorrow and then win their last game, they only get to 5 points. And then Australia, all they have to do is win their last game.
Yeah, okay. Australia has an easy last game. Yeah, you're right. Right. So England has to win tomorrow.
I don't ever get
England
into
have
these
to win
conversations because it confuses me so much. It's better to stay out. I just don't. I don't like these permutations and combinations, which is why also I don't attempt the joy factor question ever, because it just, as I said, today's question also was very simple to read, but very difficult to crack, Joyda.
It was actually trickier than I thought. So
Yeah.
all sorts of permutations, combinations happened. And here's the question. And who shared a Player of the Match award when he scored his only international white ball century?
All
The
right.
crucial term out here is white balls. So the answer a lot of people might be expecting is the fact that Sunil Gavaskar in the 1987 India-New Zealand, the last group match, in fact, which was played on the 31st of October 1987,
Okay.
Chetan Sharma got a hat-trick. Gavaskar got his only century. In his second last one-day international innings, he got his only century, 103 unbeaten runs, and they shared a Man of the Match award. But
But it was red ball.
it was red ball in those days.
Yes. They played one-day cricket with a red ball in those days. So that can't have been the answer.
Yep. So the answer is
And the answer is, come on, show it to me.
Luke Ronchi and Grant
Yes,
Elliott.
sir.
Did you guess it, Simon?
Yeah. Now
Did you?
this is against. Was this the South Africa game?
Was this the South Africa game?
I think it was the South Africa game. I'm not sure now. It
and
is the
in
South
Dun-
Africa game.
In Dunedin. I'm trying to think if it was a South Africa game in Dunedin or something like that. But it was very, very good.
Yeah, that's correct. See, I didn't even, the venue is correct actually, Simon. I just got that input, but it was against Sri Lanka. Yeah.
He's the man. He's the man.
So you've got to send him the prize now. You've got to send Dooley the prize. Another pair of shoes waiting for you the moment you come back to India. But this was so much fun on Cricbuzz Live. Thank you so much, Dooley, for joining in. It's such a pleasure talking cricket with you. It's such a pleasure talking cricket with you as well, Joyda. But it's not a pleasure for me to see someone else win the joy factor. Because, every day I try, every day I just can't. Who's won it today? Let's see. Who's won it today? But alongside Simon, Tanmay Chakrabarti, the regular. He's the Hall of Famer
Absolutely.
for the joy
And it's a good one to get.
It's a good one to get.
Very good one to get.
Yeah, to take care of that technicality, to read it very well. Are you a lawyer by any chance, Tanmay?
He's actually a medical student.
Oh, he is?
And they're the only people other than lawyers who really need to study, because you can't go halfway through a surgery and say, wait, let me look at the book. Wait, what did page 243 say? Oh, that was the wrong one.
Not all lawyers study hard, Shweta. Yeah, say no more. That's it. That's it on Cricbuzz Live today. Thank you to Simon Doull. Thank you to Joy Bhattacharya. Thank you to all of you as well. We'll see you on Tuesday with two very good games and perhaps very less rain.